Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the BTC Unlocked podcast. I'm your host, Jason Hagholm, and joining me this week is one of the founders of Niagara Top Team, a man with a very serious amateur wrestling background. It's Chris Prickett. Chris, thanks for joining me.
How's it going?
Doing well, Chris. Well, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, Chris. I mean, you have a lengthy background in the world of wrestling and now transitioning to being one of the top coaches here in the mixed martial arts scene, but let's get into it, first of all, with your wrestling background. Like, I was talking with Clay Pye on the last episode.
Right.
It's like wrestling's such a niche sport in Canada. How did you get involved with it?
The classic following the big bro. My big brother, he wrestled, and it was actually, we were on our way to a wrestling tournament. My brother was competing. I think he was in he would have been in like grade 9. And so I was in grade 5 at the time. My brother's 4 years older than me. And I'd never done any practices or anything, I was a scrappy kid, I guess, and we were on our way to a tournament that he was going to compete at, and on the way, I don't know, I was probably talking some shit to him or something, and my dad's like, why don't you join up? Why don't you sign up and compete? And I was like, sure, let's do it. So it was like a high school tournament, and I went and I weighed in at 55 pounds. I was a very small grade 5, and the smallest weight class was 84 pounds. So I got there, I weighed in, and they had like a coaches meeting whether I should be able to compete in this tournament or not, and they kind of agreed to it. And then, I wrestled my first tournament, and I got the
got the bug from that on.
That was it. I got my ass kicked and loved it.
So from that point on, Chris, like what were your pedigrees going forward? Then you wrestled from high school into college.
Yeah. So I started with the Guelph club team. They had like a club program, like I think it was like 1 or 2 days a week. So I'd drive to the club practice in Guelph, grade 5 and 6. And then when I got into grade 7 and 8, we had like a wrestling team at our school. So then I would wrestle for that, but still training with the club with Guelph. And then, high school started at Fergus High School, and there was like just a solid team. Like we have had like multiple Olympians and national champions out of the small town of Fergus. So real wrestling school. And then from there, Guelph just continued on.
Yeah, that's where you wrestled at in college, University of Guelph?
Yeah.
And coming from a small town, too, like Fergus, like that's kind of neck of my area where I grew up.
Yeah,
it's like
you're Kitchener, right?
Yeah, around there. So I know, like, how did the town of Fergus kind of, like, shape you as a young man going into...
It shaped me. Small town. Actually, I was born in Fergus. We moved around a lot when I was a kid, but I lived in Palmerston from, like, grade 2 till 4, and then I went to Fergus in grade 5, but like that was like population like 500. So I've always been a small town guy, and Guelph was the big city to me, but definitely small town stuff, and just it's different, right? And I'm 41 now, so small town back in the like 90s and stuff. I think it was just a different time, so getting into lots of trouble as a kid, and then found wrestling saved me.
Yeah, and then I mean, there's always something to do with some friends and stuff
always,
like that.
Man,
at that point
like
in
bike
time.
rides and getting into trouble and shit.
And then at Guelph, obviously, like as you said, you felt that was the big city where that's like such a university town. Where that university like is the town.
It
basically.
It's a big program. It's been around forever, right? Guelph, kind of like a dynasty, similar to like Brock back when I was competing at Guelph. That was like one of our competitions. Provincially anyways, was Brock. So yeah, they had a heck of a team, and they still have a strong team. They're same head coach when I was around is still coaching there, so it's cool.
Yeah, like talk about that program at the time, because it is still, you said, strong, but obviously Brock's kind of taken over as like the powerhouse in that department. Like,
yes.
What was the environment like there, and like who were some of the guys that were on your team out there?
So with Guelph, we always did really well, like on the open versus like the actual CIs or U Sport. Yeah. We weren't as strong. I think a big issue that Guelph had is the acceptance rate to get into Guelph. So we struggle with recruiting because just the acceptance rate is so high. So we never did as well at CIs. We're always up there, but for like senior and open divisions, we always did really well. And like, just during my time at Guelph, we had a ton of good guys. Like, I mean, too many to name, but that little area when I was around, it was a strong team. We traveled a lot as a team, always in the States and going to training camps and the Olympic Training Center in Colorado and whatnot. So it was a strong team.
Oh, what was it, the experience there, like the Olympic Training Center in Colorado? Like
amazing. We went, I would go like once or twice a year, pretty much every year for like, 8 years, 10 years. So I got to see like the way they trained and, see every quad they would have like a different head coach, or every 2 quads or whatever. So I got to like, just learn and from one of the best countries in the world and train under like the Terry and Tom Brands. They were the coaches for the national team for a while. So getting to see how they did things, and yeah, just always traveling. I think that was a big thing with my career, was traveling to different places, getting different training partners and different coaching, and yeah.
I'm picking different experiences up in the brains of different people too, to like
Exactly.
kind of hone your ability. And do you feel like that's obviously transitioned you to being like the coach you are today from those experiences?
Oh, 100%. I've had so many great like mentors and just my personal coaches throughout the years, and just traveling the world with wrestling and seeing so many different styles and ideologies and stuff. And even with MMA, like traveling to like TriStar and Alpha Male and Syndicate and Extreme, American Top Team, so many different places that you can just pick up different things here and there. So I think it's crucial for wrestlers, for fighters to travel, really.
And as well, then, like, how did you transition out of, the wrestling scene once you graduated? Like, were you still active in that, Chris?
Yeah, so kind of, it was like a slow transition, very slow transition, probably over like, 6-7 years.
Right.
It all started when I was back in Guelph, and Jason Saggo, he was training there, brushing up on his wrestling and stuff, and that's how we got connected, and then started like coaching him a little bit, and then that turned into, I want to understand jiu-jitsu a little more, so I'm not showing him something that he's going to get choked out with in a fight, and that's kind of how it blossomed. And then from there, I ended up moving to St. Catharines, getting the job with Brock, and then I met the whole Niagara crew, and then the rest is history. But it was a slow transition. Like from the time I started with Brock, I originally went there because I wanted to fight. So I was like, I'm in St. Catharines, we got Brock, I got to keep my wrestling sharp. So that's how I started going out there, was for my own personal. I had no intentions on ever coaching MMA, but
so you wanted to fight, Chris? You thought about a fight career?
Oh yeah. When I was done wrestling, I had like 6 or 7 fights booked.
Oh,
and,
really? Wow.
They all fell through.
Yeah.
And the very last time I remember, it was where was I? I was training at Evolve, which is now NTT, but I was training there, and I had Mike Malott came back from Sacramento, and he was going to be in my corner.
Yeah.
And I was going to take a fight in Rochester, New York, and it was the day before weigh-ins, so this is the last time I was like booked a fight. And I remember we were doing a session that I remember distinctly. He was like, he's like, work behind your jab and all this stuff, and working some stuff through for the fight in 2 days, and I was cutting weight and everything, and then I remember finishing that session and checking my phone, and then it was the guy dropped out 2 days out. So that was the kind of my last. I was like, fuck, I can't do this anymore. I'll try wrestling again. And then I started making a run for the next Olympics, which was 2016, and kind of made a little run for that and tore my ACL. And
oh no!
Then I was like, all right, coaching's for me.
It's just lined up.
Yeah.
So one of the things I talked to Clay about, and I've talked to him on this podcast and before, is like the wrestling mentality is when you go to the tournament, you wrestle like 4 times.
Yes.
And coming into the world of MMA, it's like, that fight may not happen. And like trying to get out of the mindset of like that. Was that something that kind of like broke you? You couldn't get out of that wrestling mindset because just everyone just kept falling out? I mean, those efforts in those camps?
I was like 29 when I started training like jiu-jitsu and striking. So for sure, the few fallouts that had happened, but I mean, had I been a little younger, I think I could have continued in pursuing, but I didn't have like management or anything like that. Right. It's not how we have it set up now, where I was just kind of having my name thrown in a few hats here and there. And again, MMA was not near as popular in Ontario at the time, especially amateur. But yeah, that's a tough one. That's the one thing I miss about wrestling, is like, every year you have the national championships at this date, you have your tournament set, and if people don't show up, then they don't show up, and then, they don't get to compete, where MMA obviously very different. So that's a difficult part of the sport, but everyone's challenged with that. Everyone has to deal with it. So
transitioning into like understanding like jiu-jitsu and stuff like that, how was that for you, Chris? Was it a natural progression, or was it like something that kind of blew your mind? I
think jiu-jitsu I fell in love with right away. Like my wrestling style, I think, was very like jiu-jitsu-esque anyways. So I fell in love with it right away. I love jiu-jitsu. I still it's still a big passion of mine. I still like rolling and competing it, and then striking. I feel like I worked with a lot of different striking coaches, and I fell in love with that as well. But yeah, I guess it was a natural progression. Like it was, I've always had great people around me, great training partners. So I felt like I was just a sponge at the beginning, and
then you just picked it up, and
yeah,
now I'm able to showcase your knowledge to your fighters and stable guys.
Thanks.
Now.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the birth of Niagara Top Team, because I
Yeah.
kind of met you around the point where Niagara Top Team started. How did you and Matt DiMarcantonio come together?
So we've been officially open like 5.5 years now, I guess, coming up on 6 years. It started kind of like organically, like we were just training together. The group of us in Niagara, we were traveling to Parabellum a lot at the time and coming down here and stuff. And it just got to the point where we were kind of running out of places to train in Niagara. We would go to Brock and train in like their small room there. And then we would go to Welland, the basement of a breakfast restaurant. We were training down there. And then I just eventually thought, hey, we should open our own place. And so I took D-Marks out for a burger and a beer. And I was like, let's open a gym. And yeah, the rest is history. Yeah.
And he was down with it, and you guys both had.
He wasn't down right away, but he was down with it eventually. We're here, but
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
you said almost 6 years open, so that's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and just like talk about as well, like the guys that you've had that are still there, and just the growth of Niagara Top Team to being one of the most elite gyms in Canadian mixed martial arts is at such a rapid rate is like very impressive.
I think we just lot of work, a lot of like jumping on opportunities, but we're just very fortunate enough to have a great group of guys right from the start. I mean, like the Tishays, the Romeros, Aaron Jeffery, Jazz was just starting back then. Yeah. Just tons of good guys to start, and they just all bought in and believed in what we were doing and what we wanted to do, and it just kind of multiplied from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think as well too, like Aaron took off around like the pandemic, fighting in the States, having some big opportunities there. That really helped put the gym on a big name. And of course, Jazz, as you've talked about, who had to have her fights in the States at that point because of the pandemic, and then eventually gets in the Contender Series and now is a force in the UFC.
Yeah. The pandemic was a crazy time. It was a crazy time for us. Struggled a lot. I mean, financially, we just opened a gym 8 months before the pandemic started, so we didn't qualify for anything for like compensation, but we're still paying the bills. And then Brock, I was out of a job there, so it was a tough time. But we trained right through the pandemic. We had to deal with a lot of bullshit throughout that time, but we kept training and we kept fighting, and that was really like we were open before the pandemic, but I feel like those 2 years is what kind of like solidified us. Like that's when we really found like, hey, we're gonna do something big with this team, and then again we took over Evolve, which is which a big gym in St. Catharines, and they end up approaching us about buying them out and stuff. So the pandemic at the time was crazy times, but it ended up like looking back, it's what forged us. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those were important times for not only like your gym, but like the growth of like the fighters that really wanted it in this country, because nothing was going on here. You had to go to the States to take super short notice opportunities and stuff like that. And you guys pushed through and survived financially during a time barely, and probably had to deal with a lot of police coming and checking in, like, you guys can't be doing this.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough, man. I was talking to the city on the regular, like, it was crazy times, man. Without saying too much, we got some fines, but we survived.
Well, I mean, that I guess puts you in a different mindset too, of like a gym owner, but like doing stuff that most gym owners don't have to do once they start, because you're talking with the city and trying to make things happen.
We lost all our members. We went all the time that we put in those 8 months, and then leading up to that, just opening the gym, it felt like it was just all taken away from us, just like that. So it was a struggle, but it all worked out in the end. Yeah.
What do you think was the reason it all worked out in the end? Because a lot of gyms would probably just fold and be like, we'll try again once the world's back to normal.
Just the support system that we have, and the people that have believed in what we're doing and just bought in. Like all the athletes, all the fighters, the management that we've had, we've been fortunate enough to meet with, and just our stubbornness, I guess, like, to me, it's what I want to do, and there was nothing that was going to like take that away from us, I guess.
And your stubbornness too. I remember you guys just seeing like Instagram posts like Jazz has a fight in the States.
Yeah.
8-hour drives like nonstop.
Fuck,
like
dude.
just talk about like your commitment to the sport, because everyone's, raging about like the quality coming out of the gym, but you have to be committed to like make those treks and stuff, especially at an uncertain time in the world.
I try my best to like lead by example. Like I'm trying to show these things and these morals and values that we stand by. I'm trying to live by it myself too. So that was part of it. Yeah, that was part of it. Just showing that we're not giving up, and we're not going to we're not going to give up on this gym. So.
Yeah, and it's obviously worked out. I mean, as we talk about, Aaron has had so much success, gets signed to Bellator, and he just had a fight not too long ago where things went his way.
Lima, man, it's crazy. Like, dude, I was just thinking about it the other day. Like, that's definitely our biggest win as a team. Like, that's a huge accomplishment for us as a gym, and along with, obviously, Aaron trains a lot down in Killcliff, and they've taken him in like one of their own. And just, again, I talk about the traveling, like with him being able to go down there and get the big gym, get those bodies and get those looks, and as well as the coaching staff there, it's imperative for him. He's a big boy, and we don't have a ton of big guys, so yeah, for him to be down there and yeah, it just shows the importance of traveling.
But the importance too, like he's a guy that followed by your example, because I remember interviewing him where he was driving from like Colorado back to St. Catharines, or like those long drives.
He's a madman.
I was like, that's insane, but he showed how dedicated he was to trying to make his goal happen.
Absolutely. I call him the team captain for a reason. He's the guy that you want to emulate with how he lives his life, how he trains, everything he does. And speaking of the big drives, he actually just drove to Thunder Bay yesterday, 15 hours up with his mom and his girlfriend, Ellie. So.
At least he had some support there. I think those ones he just did by himself,
yeah,
which is insane.
He's done a lot of travel, and he's got a Dodge Caravan or something. It's a minivan. He lives a very, like, simple life.
Yeah.
He embraces, like, the mundane and we talk about it, like, people don't want to be bored. Like, it's like the constant things where he'll live that simple life and sacrifice the things that he needs to sacrifice. And sometimes that's going out on the weekend or whatever it may be. He's definitely like the epitome of what I think it is to be a professional fighter. So great leaders like that have been absolutely crucial for us.
You also got other great leaders. I feel like Romero's another good one.
For sure.
Got a lot of young guys, but old souls.
Yes,
in the gym.
sir. That's Romero for sure. He's absolutely. And again, a guy that through the whole time has been by our side and supported us. And yeah, we're very fortunate. Now Mike, since coming back from Sacramento, he's a huge part of the team and another great, to me as a coach, like having people like that as for the other ones to look up to is so huge. Like without those guys buying in, it'd be very tough for us to do this. So it's huge.
And how big is it too to have like Mike, who's marketed right now kind of as the face of Canadian MMA, spending time at your gym, getting the work in, like that says a lot for not just him, but the sport in this country as well, as wanting to spend time in St. Catharines.
Definitely, right? Like he was training down there full time, and he made the choice to come back and train with us, along with obviously Andre at the Grappling Garden, and he works with Crew Lynn as well. So he kind of like, between the three places. But for sure, it's an honor to have someone like that. He's like, the guy is an encyclopedia of knowledge. He's just phenomenal in all areas. Sometimes like we'll have like a Monday wrestling practice and I'll be like watching his grappling. Then the next day I'm seeing him do some pads. I'm like, man, you forget what this guy's like on the feet.
Yeah.
And what he's like on the ground. He's just a savage everywhere. Savage.
Yeah. And as well, he's bringing in the knowledge too from spending time at Alpha Male in Sacramento for years
definitely.
too.
And the first guy to, after practice, there'll be someone, struggling with something. He's the first guy there to help and spend another half an hour after practice just to work on some stuff with one of the younger guys. So just a complete beauty of a human.
He's also too someone where like they could take that kind of being marketed as the face of Canadian MMA and just like let that go to their head. Yeah. He still seems very humble and just like just a guy from Burlington.
He is super humble for the skills that he possesses. Absolutely. Yeah.
And then as well, you've grown with the women's side of mixed martial arts. Of course, we talked about Jazz, and I remember Jazz fighting here at BTC, her only fight for BTC back at BTC 8, which was in Niagara.
Yeah.
And I always remember that's when we did the fighter interviews after weigh-ins, and her opponent missed weight.
Yeah.
And she was like, I was just going to have some fun with it. Now I'm going to kill her.
Yeah.
And then she did. It was like a 53-second fight.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just on the way up here. I put that fight on for Kira. I'm like, do you remember this fight? She doesn't really remember. It was like 5 years ago now. So, yeah, missing weight against Jazz, she does not take that lightly. She's pissed when someone misses weight, and she's had it happen several times. So she loves her food and loves her cooking. So when she's got to make weight and her opponent misses, she takes it personal.
I think everyone from your gym takes it very personal. I think when you think of all the fighters, I can't remember one where fighters missed weight from you guys.
We've had one, and I was fucking pissed. We've only missed weight one time. I just think it's, again, coming from the wrestling background, you don't miss weight. If you miss weight, you're not wrestling. It's not like a negotiation or anything. If you miss weight, you're not wrestling. So I think it's very important, and it's something in the sport of MMA that it happens too often. We'll just say that. I mean, with Adam's last fight, like, that's messed up, man. Yeah. You know, missing by that much, like,
basically a whole weight class.
I don't like that shit. No. Yeah.
Well, too, it seems like there are, restrictions and fines and stuff like, but it doesn't feel like there's the incentive out there for fighters to
when
really.
You're cutting weight and you got like 3 pounds to go, there's times I would give up my house to not have to cut those 3 pounds. Like, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. There needs to be, like, I don't know what you do to solve the issue, but
I think Japan kind of has it right, where it's like if you miss weight, like, you're technically like deduct a point on the scorecard. Yeah. So like even if you were maybe to win, go to the decision, you couldn't win.
That's a good call. I like that idea.
Or like something like that. I
like that idea.
You'd like lose half your purse or something like that. I think Japan's like a country that's very strict about that.
Yeah.
Like, they're all about the professionalism.
I think they should also, like, on Tapology, maybe they do this actually. They say if an opponent miss weights. I guess they do say that, but there should be something on
but it's not like
there should be something
listed
on the record if someone signs a fight and pulls out, like, canceled fights. That should be disclosed maybe.
There are stuff on Tapology, but it's just like doesn't maybe totally say. I have to actually look at a Tapology account.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a couple guys in this country alone that I've had fights where they've missed weight by like 7 pounds and still fought, and I'm like, that's egregious.
The thing is, I think over time, I mean, it's still happening in the UFC and stuff too, but I think over time, people like that don't have that discipline or that professionalism to make weight, it's going to show in other areas of their game. So I feel like you see that a little bit more in the amateur and the earlier stages of the regional show, but hopefully by the time they get to that level, they're not still missing weight, but we still see it.
And even looking at like this season of Contender Series, like no one's missed weight. Or if someone missed weight, they took the hour and they made the weight.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a good thing to see happen. And, you got to coach at the Contender Series there with Jazz. Like, what was that experience like for you too, Chris?
Amazing. I mean, with the Aaron and Romero as well on the Contender Series.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's such a great thing for the sport. I wish they would do it twice a year, though.
Well, they were talking about something like that.
It would be cool to have it twice a year or something, just timing-wise. We had 2 people this year, Cody and Powell, who are both like perfect candidates for it, but their fights were a little later, I guess, in the selection process, so they kind of missed out on it a little bit. But no, Contender Series is sick, and it seems to be now you're getting in with Contender Series or you're taking short notice. Not too many people are getting signed entirely unless you have like a big name or something like that, but it's pretty much Contender Series or short notice now. So. Do
you like that, Chris, as someone that coaches and sees a lot of your athletes like on the cusp, but like unless they're not getting that call to Contender Series or a super short notice opportunity, it's like you may have to wait another year.
It's tough, man. But it's part of the sport. It's just like learning the techniques and skills and mindset of the sport. It's like navigating through all that stuff. And that's where, like, we have humongous help with Jake Sage and Ruby Sports. They've been helping our majority of our guys, and obviously Jazz and Cody are working with First Round. But to have people helping us in that area is crucial. Like, for us to try to navigate that. And I know Josh is into management now and stuff too. So that's all a part of it. It's just part of the game. It's the same as the social media stuff and the guys having to brand themselves. It's just part of the game. So, yeah. I
mean, for your gym too, you got some quality fighters now that are marketing themselves well. Yeah. Like Clay himself.
Oh yeah, he loves it. He was built for MMA. Yeah. Like he loves it.
He loves even cutting the footage himself, which I didn't know that was him doing.
That's all him.
Jazz is out there too. Like she's big on that, and like her social media game's grown through the roof too.
That's all Deer Combat and Mike Goisman. Jazz sucks on social media. She barely knows how to check her DMs. Like she's, that's all Goisman. Yeah, he's awesome.
He's an incredible
Goisman's
talent.
the best, man.
Yeah.
He's the man.
Yeah, he's an incredible talent. But yeah, that's, I guess, part of the sport. And
yeah, we're all trying to do it with the gym too, same as you guys. I mean, doing this podcast and stuff. We're trying to stay with the times and market ourselves and stuff. We just hired a girl for the gym, like a full-time videographer.
Yeah.
So we have her doing all our videos and stuff, and we're learning as we go.
as everyone is with this kind of stuff. Chris, coaching-wise, though, when you're in the cage coaching, is there any differences in your mentality from coaching MMA versus coaching wrestling?
Not really. I think it's the same for the most part. I mean, obviously the consequences are a lot different, but it feels the same. Like whether I'm coaching like a kids jiu-jitsu tournament or, coaching in the UFC, it's all the same. You're giving your best effort and you're trying to see what's open, and it's pretty similar. I mean, definitely what is different is like coaching jazz compared to coaching that's a whole different.
How hard is that for you?
That's
Chris?
shaving years off my life. I'll say that. That's shaving years off my life. It's a lot, man. Watching your girl, your fiance get in there, and it's not about like her getting hurt. It's just like how hard she takes it when she does lose.
Yeah.
It's like
that's got to be tough. The double whammy on the professional but the personal element as well.
I think we've done a really good job of separating it and understanding like when I'm your coach and when I'm your fiance. And I mean, we've been doing this for 9 years now together. Like she had no background in MMA whatsoever when we met, and she kind of fell in love with it from just traveling around with me, like going out to PEI and coaching Saggo, and so that's how she kind of got into it. So I was never expected, and it was definitely, we had some trying times, but you learn, just like anything, man. You learn, you make the adjustments, and I think we've got it down now.
Yeah, like you guys kind of have an interesting relationship. Like you kind of just met like on a blind date kind of thing?
It was like one of my friends was going on like a blind date with one of her friends or something, and it was just like this random meeting up at the in Port Dalhousie at the beach. And she was with her friend, and then, we just kind of met like that.
You guys hit it off ever since then, and have been the most interesting relationship, I think, out of any couple.
We hit it off right away, for sure.
What was the moment like getting her involved in the sport?
I mean, the first time she ever trained was we went out to PEI, and I was getting Saggo ready for UFC Ottawa, or one of them. And so I was coaching, and she was sitting there watching, and she's like, "Oh, can I jump in?" And we're like, "No, like you got to train before you can spar." And then Saggo's like, "After practice, I'll move around with you a bit." And that's what happened. After practice, Saggo threw the gloves on her, and they just started scrapping. And he was like, "Oh man, you actually have some natural talent. You could probably make a run at this."
Yeah.
And that was it.
And then she went out there and had some crazy amateur fights out in the States.
She had some crazy fights. She trained at Brock. She did the whole season. She wrestled all the competitions with the Brock team. That's what really forged her. Is that Brock room, just the intensity in that room, and just the shit kicking she took over the years in there. Just she's a girl that we were just talking with Lynn a second ago. Like some people can be the hammer, but they can't be the nail. She grew up she got her start being the nail a lot. So, she persevered, and she took her beatings. That's for sure.
For her career, she fought with us the one fight, and then the pandemic happened, and then she fought a lot in CFFC, which is a great opportunity for her and for a lot of the guys at your gym, especially during the pandemic, as we talked about. But I'll never forget her reaction losing the split decision to Elise Reed. Just her jaw on the ground. Yeah. It's one of the worst decisions I think I've seen in regional MMA.
It was bad.
Where in the final round, she's on top for 2 minutes.
I know.
Top pressure, and they didn't give her the fight. The
UFC had told us before that fight, you win this and we're putting you in. Yeah. So, but just how many times in life kind of one door closes and you just two other doors, whatever it is, and that loss, without that loss, she would have got into the UFC at 115 pounds. Yeah. And that was not a smart move. She should never have been 115 pounds. Yeah. She was cutting way too much weight. Just the quality of life she was starving herself. She's 5'7", and
she's tall.
She was cutting 25 pounds with a six-pack down to 115. So it was way too much weight. So taking that loss made us kind of make some choices, and she ended up going up to 125. And in hindsight, she was that much more prepared when she got into the UFC too.
Yeah.
So yeah, blessing. There's always like hidden blessings, and that was one of them. But terrible decision.
It was an awful decision, which kind of
terrible decision.
I mean, obviously, there's always light at the end of the tunnel or
Yes.
something like that. But goes to your point too of like trying to go from coach to the boyfriend, basically. Like that one seems like that had to be a really tough one to comprehend, because I just remember social media was like, this was an absolute robbery.
She does not take losing very well at all, and especially the way it happened and stuff. That was a rough time. Like it was tough.
those old Pennsylvania boxing judges out there at that point in time.
They are brutal, man. They are brutal. It's everything. I mean, we fought out there. I think it was her pro debut.
Yeah.
And the scale was like all over the place. It was like you could step on it one way and you'd be 5 pounds lighter, step on another way, 5 pounds heavier. And we kind of like said, hey, what's going on with this scale? And he's like, it doesn't matter. It's the same for everybody. And like, it
doesn't matter.
They're terrible, man. Yeah. Shout out Pennsylvania. Like their fucking commission sucks, man. Yeah, always something to think about when you're fighting out there. Like, it could go sideways.
It's also, I mean, too, for Canadians, too, it always feels like when you travel out of country, like, the world's just against you. Like, is that kind of a mentality you guys kind of have?
You got to keep it in consideration.
Yeah.
So it's a part of the game.
Yeah.
Ideally, you make it so dominant or get a finish and you don't leave it in the judges' hands, but that doesn't always happen. So, yeah, it's definitely something we consider when we're looking at fights and we're like, we got this hometown guy. We're always kind of keeping that in the back of our minds. So,
and just looking at you talk about Malott, Jazz, like they've been very fortunate not to have these like Apex fight events in the UFC. Like Jazz has been like got to travel.
She's fought in the Apex once. And was she like 9 fights in the UFC or something, or 7, 8 fights?
She fought in Texas. Like,
she's been on all like numbered cards or stadium cards. Yeah, no, she's been very fortunate, man. It's been sick.
I mean, that's great experience for her. There's a lot of fighters that still aren't used to the live crowd that just being stuck in the Apex in that warehouse.
We're very fortunate. Yeah, she's only fought once in the Apex, and it's not the same.
No.
Nothing better than walking out to a stadium crowd, just like, yeah, it's cool.
Well, both Jazz and Mike got to do that in Vancouver and as well in Toronto. Like, talk about what that's like. That's like the pinnacle right there for your gym and at the sport.
Toronto was like crazy, man. Like one of the coolest experience as a coach I've ever had, just to be out there and just hear the crowd, like, for both of them. And yeah, cool, surreal. Yeah.
And then Jazz, her last fight, of course, a great win and then a better post-fight moment.
Yeah. People like the post-fight.
Well, she's kind of really adapted to that kind of, like, as we talked about social media, putting your stuff out there. She's putting herself out there on the microphone, which is how you get people to remember you.
And like, I think what resonates with a lot of people is that, like, you can tell it's not an act. Like, that's what Jazz is like. She's a goofball. She can be super silly, and that comes through. So I think she's done a good job, and she's got more comfortable over the years just being herself. And and
getting in front of the cameras. And it's true. Like, the fans will resonate with people where they can tell it's authentic.
Yeah.
Like, if you're putting on a facade, people can see through that. And
she's a hothead too. And like a lot of times after fights, she's still like all wound up. So it's the last one was hilarious, man. And it doesn't show through the camera like how loud the boos were for her at the beginning, because you can kind of hear it. But she got some good boos, but she also got some good cheers throughout the fight. Like, she took her down at the end, and the crowd was like went crazy for her. So they were kind of back and forth.
I mean, suck it boos is a great answer.
Yeah,
great response.
Aaron Jeffery loved that one. I think actually, speaking of Goisman, I think he said they're making up some suck it man shirts or something.
Awesome.
Yeah, trying to get it in the merch. And
she's one of the favorites there with Helmani's old show, the MMA Hour and stuff like that. I'm sure she'll still be a popular one going forward with the new plan. But
no, he's been very very supportive of her. He's had her on a couple of times now.
Yeah, I mean, great last name too to help like.
Yeah,
that's a drop on the show.
People like send me little clips and stuff because I don't like watch all of the episodes or anything. But yeah, they got the little like Jazz Divisius fucking soundbite. It's funny.
Well, Chris, obviously, we talk about Mike and Jazz, but the sport continues on, like building up talent. We've obviously talked to Clay, who I feel is the best prospect in this country right now. Who else is coming out of Niagara Top Team that we should keep an eye on?
I mean, a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys. Like, obviously, like the Kevins and the Powells and, Cody and Tishay. Cody's looking to get matched. Tishay's looking to get matched up, rather. for November and get back in there. He's had a bit of a layoff. Cody's right on the cusp. We're hoping November he gets a call. He's on there for short notice for November. And tons of young guys. We got a kid, Elias. He moved here from Vancouver. He broke his arm a couple months ago. We're just getting ready for a fight, and so he's healing up. So we're hoping to have him on our December card, which we're putting on our own show in December. So we have tons of guys. We got Aiden Appel. He's 17 years old. He's been with us since he was just a little tubby kid, and he's an absolute savage, man. He's gonna be special. He is special. And then in the pro, we have DeMonte, who just made his debut on that last card. So yeah, we got guys all the way through, and then our kids programs are booming. We got a lot of young kids that are wanting to get into MMA. So all the way through, we got a lot of young bucks.
And as you're talking about November, of course, that's BTC 26 back in Niagara Falls.
Yes, sir.
The third time for BTC in Niagara. I mean, what does that mean for you? And that obviously that gets your gym just excited because everyone wants to be on a fight at home.
It's huge. It's huge. We're talking about it every day at the gym. It's huge for our team. It's huge for the gym. We're looking to, have a bunch of guys on the card. We got a few matched up already, and we're looking to get a few more. But we're gonna hopefully just sell the shit out of that show, and we're pumping it a lot. And BTC's been huge for us just from the beginning, always supporting us and always having our guys on the fights and giving us the opportunities to fight. And without that, we wouldn't be where we are. So BTC we love you guys. That's why I drove down here on a Saturday.
Yeah, like the BTC 8 show, which was the first one in Niagara, was like one of my favorite shows ever.
That was sick.
A cool venue. Every time someone from your gym came out, it was like a big pop. It was like it was WrestleMania, basically.
Yeah. That was when we just got started, right? Yeah. That was like 5 years ago.
That was 2019, just November 2019, and then
we just opened at that point.
The show in St. Catharines was the first arena show after the pandemic.
That one. We struggled a bit because they needed the vaccine passport going in, so the crowd wasn't what I think it could have been. Yeah. But still a great show. But this one we're expecting to be good.
But why do you think Niagara's really taking off as this fight capital of not just Ontario but really of Canada right now?
Just a lot of like-minded individuals chasing down the same shit. Like I always say with DiMarc's, it's so easy working with someone like that. We got very similar goals. We got very similar vision and morals and stuff like that, so we just gel really well. And I think a lot of people have just bought in, and there are a lot of like-minded people willing to work hard and make the sacrifices. Just a bunch of people pulling in the same direction, supporting each other. The support from the community is amazing, from the kids program, the parents, just everybody is on board. And I think just MMA is booming right now, and it's just the right place at the right time.
I think the support thing's a big thing because I remember that BTC 8 sport, the mayor of Niagara Falls was there. And it's very rare we get political figures like that, in support of what you're doing. Yeah. So that was really cool. And just, I guess it goes to show just how well things are going for not just you guys, but combat sports. Boxing's big out there as well.
It's big, man. We got Lucas Body. He's a legend. He's
coming off a massive victory.
But I mean, Niagara's been a fight hub for a while, right? Back in DiMarc's, he was training under Modern Vision, and a lot of those guys were from Modern Vision, and they've been around for a while. So it's just been a little bit on the hush. I think it's been a fight city for a while.
It's in seems like the plans from the Premier of Ontario, Mr. Doug Ford, wants to make it Niagara Falls the Vegas of Canada.
That's right.
I don't know if that'll happen, but it's a good idea, and it kind of gels with the fight scene right now in Niagara and things of that nature.
It's booming. It's a good time for MMA, for sure. A lot of people are excited about it.
Yeah, a lot of good quality fighters coming out of your gym, Chris. It's always been it's a pleasure to talk to you, Chris.
Pleasure to talk to you, man.
Thanks for coming out. Last thing, plug, the guys you got coming up here for the show in November, and, the big, strong rest of the year for you guys.
I don't know who we all got in November. I think we got Luke, Alana, and Gabe matched up so far. But with that unified fight card just falling through, we got the whole team's looking to fight. So, we're hoping to get a bunch of people on that card. And then, obviously, UFC, we got Jasmine Mike and Siri, who trains with us from time to time. He's on the card. We're hoping to get Cody on that card for short notice. They've told us he's next in line at 135, so he's staying ready. And then our show in December.
Yeah.
December 14th. Come check it out. It's going to be good. It's first time amateur MMA's ever come to Niagara, so we're looking to do something special.
Well, awesome, Chris. Pleasure to chat with you, and can't wait to see you at the fights in November.
Thank you, man, and you're fucking awesome too. I love listening to you on the. I always after the fights will like pull them up and watch them back, and you make the fights exciting. You know your shit, and you're awesome.
Thank you so much, Chris. Well, great chatting with you, and see you in the fights in a few weeks.
Yes, sir. We'll see you soon.
See ya.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks so much, Chris.
Dude, thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks.